Hello. So today I'm going to be recording another Montac tier list video. I know I just made one, but I kind of just felt like making another one. So today I'm going to be going over all of the generic Montac monsters, elders, and synergies. Um, I don't know if I'll go over the set 5 ones, dependent if I can do that. We will see, because I'd have to crop the images from the Montac market. But yeah. So to start, we are going to rank Titus. So Titus is a very good card. He's been there pretty much since the beginning. I've pretty much included him in almost every deck I've made. So what he requires 7 fighter type monsters to be in your perish pile, and is a mythic fighter type with 5,600 power and a timer of 1. When this card is played, discard as many cards as you want. For every card discarded, this card's timer is increased by 1. When this card perishes, you may play up to 1 cluster your below non-asset fighter type from monster from your perish pile. So Titus, what's interesting is I haven't seen him played as much as I usually do recently, but I do think he is still a really good card. If you can run him, I would definitely run him in your deck because he's just a big monster. So he can block some attacks. He's fairly easy to get out, but the only thing is that you need to do it at the end of the game, not during the mid and early game, sadly. But he's very good. He can become a wall, you know. You can keep him on the field for longer. He can activate Fire and Smoke, and other cards that benefit off of being uh, discarded or whatever. So I'd say he's definitely one of the best synergies. Um, I'd say, okay, this is hard to rank. I'm not sure if I want to put him in S or A tier, because S tier would basically mean that he's just really, really good, which he is, but yeah, I'm gonna put him in A tier for now. If my rankings change from then, I'll put him in S, but I don't feel like he kind of deserves S. Just because he's like one of the best options for generics doesn't mean that he deserves S in my opinion. Yeah. Okay, so next we have the Earphones mini series of cards. So there's like 2 cards. I'm including Earphones out despite it being a tactical, because basically these 2 cards go together and you can't really do much without one or the other. So I'm going to read each one. Earphones in Subdued is a 50 power monster with a timer of 1, or a class of 1, I mean. Um, Once per game, if the tactical card Earphones Out Rampage is discarded to the perish pile to add this card to your hand, add that card back to your hand. And then Earphones Out Rampage says, during your preparation stage, select up to 2 Earphones in Subdued in play, and they each gain the specialty. While in a conflict with a monster whose power is higher, this monster's power increases until it matches the enemy monster's power. Um, Second effect is discard this card and add up to 1 Earphones in Subdued from your perish pile to your hand. So Earphones Out Rampage is an interesting case because it's just really weird, or the Earphones cards in general are very weird. They don't really see much play, mostly because they're a very specific engine, and they only try to crash into cards. Misfire made a deck on Montac's channel and like played it versus Montac on his channel, and it was interesting to see how it played. I think Earphones in now would be slightly better than it was in that video. In that video, it still did pretty well. But I'd say it's just a weird card. I don't think it deserves an A tier because it's very specific, a little situational. You need to build specifically around it, and I'd say it's just not like a card I would want to play in a deck, to be honest. It's a really cool card, and I really like the card. I think it could use a buff though. That's my opinion. So that it can actually be your win con. But yeah, I'm gonna put it in. I think it's a D tier as a strategy, in my opinion. Um, Not that it's a bad card. You just need to run uh like specific cards for it. It's a very specific engine. You need to have the tools so you don't crash, you know. and the win con itself is not that good, so I'd say it deserves D tier. Okay, next card we have is Archetype of Vengeance, Sir Arthur. Um, this guy is alongside Titus, he's also one of the most common synergies used. I think he's kind of dropped off in use now that Operator is a thing. I think so basically, um, you need 3 fighters, but it can be either player this time, not unlike Titus, which you need to specifically have them yourself. So he can be a little easier to get out. You can run it in a deck with non-fighters. Although I'd say running 2 operators is almost always better than running an Arthur, in my opinion. But yeah, basically what he says is when this card is played, play up to 1 class 4 below fighter type monster from your deck. While this card is in play, it gains 250 power for every fighter type monster in your parish pile. So what's weird about Arthur is um, basically you either get benefit of having a lot of power in the end game, or you get the benefit of getting your monster from the deck uh, in the early game. And I feel like he's not very good. The only reason why he saw a lot of play before is because he was just a nice, generic guy. But now that we have Operator, Sir Arthur is kind of way worse than running Operator, in my opinion. But it's not a bad card because obviously it's pretty easy to get out. It's a 2,500. Of course, it can block some cards. It can search you a card. But I'd say overall he's probably the worst generic that's like not specific, like of the fighter type ones. Because like Titus and Operator are a lot better than Sir Arthur in my opinion. I'd say Sir Arthur is either a B. I'd say he's a B tier. The thing about Titus is that Titus is also recursion, so he can reset up whatever combo you need, for example, which is really nice. You can also trigger on mill, which is good for things like impact or Beowulf. So yeah. I think Arthur deserves B, maybe C. We'll see. Because I think at the end of this video, I will also rearrange them because this is something I'm less confident with compared to Gamblers. But yeah, next card we have. Okay, next we have another very, very weird strategy. Um, but a cool one. I'll admit it's a cool one. I will say that again, this is another case like Earphones where I had to put 3 cards here because they're all very much needed to play together. Otherwise, strategy is very trash. Um, so we got the 3 cards here: Impact Warrior, Synergy Impact, Impact Reinforcement. 1 second, let me put them above these other layers so I can spread them out better. So the way this strategy works is you want to. Oh wait, why did I get Extreme Max 10? My bad. I'll be right back. 1 second, let me fix that. Okay, there we go. Now I fixed it. They kind of look kind of similar. Anyways, the whole strategy yeah, revolves around Synergy Impact, which is an extremely long card. So I'll not read it. I'll just say that basically it'll kill your whole asset pile, and once per turn it gains 1 timer, gains one a counter. Yeah, gains 1 counter, and once it reaches 9 counters, you can play up to 5 once per turn. Play an Impact Warrior up to 5 times. And what Impact Reinforcement does is it makes Synergy Impact gain 2 counters, or searches you Synergy Impact, and draws you cards. So it's just a very nice strategy, but it gets rid of your asset pile, of course. Impact Warrior, what he does is he's just like a vanilla that's 3,000 power, but you can recur him, and he gets super strong. You can use it with something like Monster Transfer to get insane levels of power. And so it's just really, really strong, I'd say. But I haven't seen anyone really run it. So it's interesting. Impact Warrior is a weird case because you don't actually run this in your deck. This is a token. Um, but I will say I think Impact as a strategy is probably a whole thing. It's just like I have to I know I said monsters, but you know, I have to kind of rank these together because you won't be able to do much without ranking all three of them. So I think Impact is probably a B tier thing. I think it has potential. I think it will eventually get seen in the meta. Whether or not it's a good strategy, I have no idea. But I'd say it has potential, and I think it's very, very strong. Despite getting rid of your whole asset pile, getting 3,000 power monsters whenever you need without any requirements. It's nice, especially because they are they can't be popped at all, which is probably like one of the main attractions of it. So yeah, that's Impact Warrior and all its cards. So next we'll see what we have. 1 second. So this card is also very weird. It is a monster, but you're almost never gonna play it. But what he does is he's a card specifically designed for mill and discard strategies. When this card perishes due to an effect or specialty, you gain 2 health points, and you may select one monster in play. If you do, it gains 500 power until it perishes. I'd say out of the 3 cards that are kind of like this, because you have Crime Partners and you have what's his name? Specialty Debt. I'd say he's probably the worst of the 3. He's not a bad card. Giving you 500 power is nice, and the 2 health points, I guess, is okay. I'd say Tactical Fodder Soldier, though, is more of a C tier card. If I'm going to make a discard strategy, this is the last card I would add. If I have nothing else, and I have a lot of, like, discard triggers or whatever, I don't know. I think he's just okay. Like, I don't think he's bad. I just think, you know, there's other better options. So yeah. He's an interesting card for sure. Okay, so next we have probably the best synergy generically in the game. Operator is so good for a variety of reasons. For one, he can be run. You can run 2 of them. 2, it's super easy to get out. You don't even have to run fighters. Even though he has fighter requirements, you can just hope your opponent runs fighters and you're fine. And 3, he has basically no cost for his very insane ability. Only thing is you can't use it very far in the game. That's the only thing. So Operator is a timer of 4, giving you access to all tacticalisms in the game right now, which is nice. But although I still feel like you don't have much incentive to go for those yet. And with 1,900 power, it may seem like a little, but you know his effect makes up for that. So only once per copy of this card, you may send the top card of your deck to the perish pile to send an enemy non-asset monster in play to the perish pile. If you do, this card gains power equal to the original power of the enemy monster sent to the perish pile until the end of the game. So the operator can just do a free pop pretty much for milling one of your cards, which sure, that can be a little annoying sometimes because like you might mill something you need, but it's really usually worth it. The operator can't pop asset monsters, which is sometimes annoying. But just the fact that it's a free pop for something so cheap, and since there's not many better options already, because we have a few other generic synergy monsters like Titus and Arthur, and then you have Supreme Dragon Conqueror, which needs specific cards, and same for Vixen. I'd say Operator is probably the best one, especially because you can run 2, and he's just a free pop. Very versatile, can be a big card for quite a few turns, and since he can do his effects at any time, you can't really do much about him unless you like synergy null him as soon as he's played. Of course, you can lower his power later, but by then you've already gotten rid of the card, so it doesn't matter. Of course, the biggest card that this card can't get over is Crime Partners, which, yeah, but I'd say he's still deserving of the S tier. Like, I would 100% run him over Titus or Arthur any day, even though Titus is probably one of my favorite cards. Next, we have one of my least favorite cards in the game, which is Deltro. So Deltro is a very interesting card because it used to be what Operator is now. Basically, Operator used to be a monster and Deltro used to be a synergy, and then Montac decided to switch them around and give the Operator its old specialty as like a synergy monster, which made it way better than it was. So yeah, but Deltro, I never really liked that Deltro because he's an OTK enabler, and I'm not a fan of that. Um, so yeah, but as a card himself, I'd say he's very. I don't see him played, which is interesting. Each time your enemy loses health points due to wounding while this card is in play, they lose an additional health point. When your enemy has more health points than you, this card gains an additional attack and it cannot perish due to enemy effects. So Deltro can gain removal immunity, which is very strong if you have less health points than your opponent. So of course you want to use this with stuff like Star Hand, which is just really, really strong, of course. And then yeah, it's just burn for free. So this is for OTK it's an OTK enabler, which I guess is fine. I'd say he's not that good though. Like he's a class 6, so he's kind of harder to get out. I think there are probably ways to get him out. I won't say he's like a card that's like really good, especially because he only works in specifically OTK, which of course is a risky strategy in the first place. And the OTKs he works with, I'd say, are usually worse than the better OTKs in my opinion, because I think Angel OTK is probably one of the best ones, and that one is for other stuff that are just okay, I guess. Yeah. Okay, next we have perhaps the weirdest synergy in the game, because he requires cards from Destroyer Swords, but also he works for the Angel Apex, which is also very weird, and his effect kind of doesn't fit any of those or either of those really. It's kind of its own thing, but yeah, Supreme Dragon Conqueror is a very interesting card, I'd say. Um, Basically, you need Cursebreaker, Swordsman, Dragon's Fire, and another fighter type apparently. Um, to play him, which is a very specific requirement. When this card is played, you may send one dragon type enemy monster and play to the perish pile. If you do, this card's timer is removed. During any conflict this card is involved in, the enemy's monster's power is halved until the end of the turn. So obviously this card is meant to pop after you use a Dragon's Fire, which is strong, of course. Um, what he does, what he likes to do is basically become a 6,200 power monster in a lot of cases. Although, yeah, I guess you could argue that it's not exactly like that, but he's a little harder to get over than most other cards, of course. Um, yeah, it's a cool card. I like the card. I just feel like it would be a lot better if it wasn't so weirdly placed in the thing, because it's like Angel, not Angel. It's like um a Destroyer Sword, but also not a Destroyer Sword card. It's really weird. So yeah, I would suggest that this card become more generic, and it would be fine. But as is, I'd say he's too specific to be like usable in most situations. I'd say he's C or B. But I'd say he's worse than Arthur maybe. Or you know what? No, I'm gonna put him in B tier. His effect is really good. And he only requires a few cards that are C play anyways, besides maybe Dragon's Fire, but that's not a huge cost. Um, so I'd say he's a okay. This is a weird ranking. Do I put him in B or do I put him in C? I think for now I'll put him in C, just because he's too specific for now. But his effects is interesting, I guess. I'd say Operator just outclasses it a lot, anyways. Um, except for its like, of course, it's for its pop effect. For its power effect, maybe not. But I don't think I would really run this card. Or wait, let me think. Because since Cursebreaker sees a lot of play, I think, yeah, I guess he's a B tier. He's a B tier because Cursebreaker does see play, and Dragonfires does see play. If you or doesn't see play, but you can run it and it's probably fine. You know, it's not a huge deal. Um, so I'd say he's a B tier since you can run it in some decks and it's fine to run. It's not a huge cost or anything. It's like there's a reason to run it, at least. That was very rambly, my bad. Yeah, I was debating a lot on that one, but yeah, I think B tier is fair for that. Speaking of Cursebreaker, here he is. So Cursebreaker Swordsman is a very interesting card. He goes with the Destroyer Sword archetype in general. I don't know if I could call it an archetype. It's like a mini archetype. It's like an engine. I don't know what I'd call it. It's a series of cards. I wouldn't call it an archetype. But while your enemy has more health points, this card can be played from your hand regardless of class. That usually doesn't matter that much. When this card is played, you may add one Destroyer Sword or Dragon card from your deck to your hand. Really good effect. While in play, this card gains an additional attack each time a Dragon or Destroyer card is played until it perishes. I guess that regardless of class thing is nice. I don't know if anyone's used it. I don't play him really, so I don't know. But I do know that he's can be a big threat. He's a really cool card in my opinion. Basically, what his best use is, of course, with Titan Destroyer Sword, which gains you a health point. So I'm not sure how that synergizes too well with its first effect. But I haven't played Destroyer Swords as they're like standalone thing. I usually just Titan Destroyer Sword into my own deck, so I don't know. But I'll just disregard that because it confuses me. Um, Otherwise, this card is very strong for decks that want to run like the whole Destroyer Sword engine, I guess. I'd say it's not like a huge like amazing because like sure it can attack a billion times, but it doesn't have much base power to back that up, which I mean is fine because you do have Destroyer Swords that buff it up. But I'd say for now it's not. I'm debating between B and A tier. It enables, of course, Supreme Dragon Conqueror. I'd say right now in the current meta, it's an A tier because people do run Destroyer Swords, and he's fine because he also does search you a card, which is really strong. So I'm gonna put him in A tier because he does have that search effect. I think that bumps him up to an A tier in my book. Okay, so next card we have is Specialty Detonation Soldier, which instantly for me is an A tier. This one I don't have much to explain about. It's pretty prevalent in the meta, especially in well, I wouldn't say in the meta, but it is commonly used in a lot of decks. Not all decks use it, but like it's very good because you can discard it and it'll trigger and remove a card specialty. It's very easy to remove specialties with, of course. You can play it and you can remove a specialty if you don't have to mill it, so you can't break into it. And it's also if you want to use it with something like Beowulf, which I do, I like to use him with Beowulf. He can trigger on that. He's just a really good generic card, you know. I really like him. He's really fun to use. Maybe not to face, but to use he is. And yeah, I'd say he's just a really good card in general. So he's an A tier. Okay, prepare for another very weird set of cards here. We have Vixen, the non-synergy version. So Vixen is basically regen, but once per turn as a monster, which is very nice. Well, I guess it doesn't restore the power, but still, it's very nice because it does restore specialties. It's just a lot more awkward to use than regen, but for decks that do have a lot of trouble with specialty removal, it's nice. I wouldn't rank it in A tier. I'd say it's a B tier because it's slower. You can't use it on opponent's turn. It's a class 3 and the synergy it gets, in my opinion, is not that good. But the card itself is decent, I'd say. Yeah. So yeah, now let's get to the synergy. So here we have the synergy version of Vixen, which is one of the weirdest synergies in the game because it's like hyper specific to mill strategies. I think I have to reread it because I haven't seen anyone use this card, so I have to read what it does. Well, this card is in play and its condition has been met. Each time a card is sent from your deck to your parish pile, you may add that card to your hand. If you do, discard one card from your hand. This card then gains 1000 power and their timer removed until the end of the game. Okay, yeah, this is a very weird card. So basically, it prevents any card from being milled, but you have to discard a card instead. So that's interesting, I guess. Which I don't see the point of it that much, because most mill strategies don't care anyways about them being milled. So I don't think it really matters if you have Vixen or not, especially because you have to run specifically Vixen and Massive Delusion, two cards that aren't really do anything for mill strategy specifically. So yeah, I think it's a weird. I mean, yeah, discarding a card is nice because it can trigger your crime partners after you've searched it with something maybe. But it's just a really weird card, specific card. It has not much power, and the power up is kind of underwhelming, I'd say. It does give you access to any tacticalism, but I don't think that really matters that much. So yeah, I think this card is just the D tier card in my opinion. It's not that good. It's too specific. Mill isn't prevalent in the meta right now. Um, I'm gonna say D tier. E tier, I don't think I even want E tier here. I wish there wasn't an E tier on this template. I shouldn't have chosen this template, but yeah. F tier, it's not an F tier card because it's usable, but it's just very weird, you know? Okay, next card we have is Versatile Tactician. So Versatile Tactician is a constant support card. So this card helps out synergy impact strategies. It helps out anything that runs Extreme X10. I guess that's a very specific card, but web. Um, good for those decks. It's good probably for cryptids maybe. I don't know, because they have one card like that. It's a cool card, I'd say. I don't remember all of the cards it helps right now, but I know that it's a very good card in general. Because it can search a lot of good cards. Like it can search placement shutdown, for example, which is nice. But it's just an interesting card. I'd say it's a B tier. It sees play a little bit. Um, not that much. I do plan on rearranging some of these cards now because I do see that it is a little different than what I think right now. Because when I started the tier list, I hadn't formed my opinions completely yet. So yeah, you'll see that at the end of the video. I'll rearrange some of these cards a little and explain why. But yeah, we have only a few cards left, I think. So one second, let me fetch Crime Partners. Okay, so Crime Partners, another very interesting card. This card is very meta relevant right now. It's probably automatically an S tier. It's probably one of my favorite cards. I use it in my deck. It's very fun to use. It's very hard to get rid of. Now it has some counterplay cards that Montac recently introduced. But what he does is, or what they do, when this card perishes due to a specialty or effect, you may play it from your perish pile. When this card is in play, it gains 1,000 power for each different monster type in your perish pile. So, Crime Partners, the only ways to get rid of it are by specialty removing it, double hammering it down, which usually is bad because like you'd have to use one of the effects and then the other effect. It's very weird. I don't think that's ever going to be done because it would be very weirdly specific. Or attacking over it. You cannot remove it by a specialty, or you can, or like, by a specialty or effect. I mean, you can, but like, why would you do that when it just replays itself? You know, it doesn't do anything for you. So, this card is definitely an S tier as is because there is quite a few ways to trigger right now. And once you get it on board, it's just really annoying to take out. It takes a lot of time and resources, and so it's definitely a really strong card, especially because it can work with Destroyer Swords even. It's just really strong. It's not that hard to use, so yeah, it's definitely an S tier from these cards in my opinion. Especially, even though it's designed for mill, it's probably best in non-mill. For example, my deck, which is with Beowulf. It's really good in that because I can play 2 crime partners in the end game by triggering it off of Beowulf, for example. It's a really strong card, really good card. Okay, next we have the only publicly available Elder at the moment, I think. Jigsaw Giant Osekip. A very weird card as well. Very specific and probably not too good. When this card is played, you may add 1 noble type monster from your deck to your hand. Each cooldown stage this card is in play, it loses 500 power until it perishes. So it is a huge card, of course, like it's a very big card. I think it might be okay in Vigilantes. That's the one thing I think it could be good in. But otherwise, eh. It's just a very weirdly specific card. Well, yes, it has 5,000 power. That's not too hard to get over. I mean, it is, but it's not that bad. You want to specialty remove this maybe, and that way you can get to that amount of keep your power high. I think he might be underrated, but also I don't know. It's just a card that I don't think anyone sees a reason to play. Yeah, he's an interesting case, but I think unless he sees play soon, I don't see a reason to put him any higher than C tier. I don't think he's a bad card. I don't think he's as bad as these guys. I think he's better than them because I mean it's a search, sure, like it's a search. You don't have to build around it very specifically, because I mean noble types are somewhat common. They're not that hard to find, and Osakip is a huge card in general, and you only have the cost of sending one blue tactical, which isn't that bad either. So I'd say he's a C tier for now. I'm debating whether or not I want to get all the other elders because there's like a bunch that are generic. I think I'll only do the ones that I can find on Untap because I know that there are some, and I know how to get to them, so I can just copy their link and paste it into the spread into this Krita thing. I'll do that real quick. I don't think I'll do other ones that aren't owned by anybody, but I think most of them are. So I'll go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, so here we have Fox. So this card is also very interesting. It's probably one of the coolest cards that are in set 5, I think. Probably one of the most hyped cards. That's why people have bought it, and so I feel like it's already seen enough play. But the card sends 2 red diamonds, diamond tacticals to your perish pile. So it's pretty easy to get out because most decks run more red tacticals than blue tacticals anyways. During your preparation stage, you may discard 1 card from your hand to add 1 perish tactical to your hand. So it's just really good because it can discard any tactical at all for no cost. Of course, it only has 3 uses per game, but 2,500 is a pretty decent amount of power. And of course, it has ability to recur things. So you can play, for example, a Trojan Guard every turn if you want. It's a really strong card. I want to say it's an S tier because you don't want to run it in every deck that you play, but it's definitely an A tier in my opinion. It's a card that just is really strong in general, can force out some guards because your opponent does not want you using recursion with it because it's really strong. Yeah, that's Fox. Okay, next we have Clytus, who has the best flavor text in the game, by the way. Howdy, prepare to perish. Iconic line. Truly inspirational. Yeah. Basically, what he does is he searches you 1 card from your deck, any card from your deck, and then you get to play 1 monster regardless of class from your hand. Really strong card, of course. Well, I wouldn't say it's really strong. There's a lot of search now that plays regardless of class anyways. So this card is decent, I'd say. It's not as good as Fox, in my opinion. But he's a really strong card in general. Definitely better than Osakip in my opinion, just because he's, for one, easier to get out because you don't need to run a blue tactical, which some decks don't even run, or the ones that run it need it specifically. So you don't have to waste a deck slot, and also Clytus is just better in general in my opinion because it's not restricted to just noble, and he lets you play a monster regardless of class. Although Osakip being a big monster is nice, yeah, I feel like Osakip is probably underrated, but I don't want to put him in B tier when he hasn't seen any play yet. You know what I mean? Yeah. If he does see play and he proves to be better than he looks, then yeah, I will put him in B tier. But for now, not B tier material in my opinion. Okay. Next we have the whole Black King package. So I decided to also put this all together in a group like I did the others. So Black King package is very interesting because basically this card will almost always send those Black King package cards to the perish pile when you play it. I'll show you in a second. So we have Black King Prometheus, Black King's Rebirth, and Black King Rebellion Breaker. Rebirth is a card that allows you to replay that Black King after it dies, which is really strong. And Rebellion Breaker is a card that doubles its power when it's in conflict with a monster that has more than 2,000 power. So, because I don't want to read all of this. And Black King, he prevents the opponent from playing tacticals in the middle of a conflict. So, in general, this combo is really good, I think. I think it's very underrated. Only Sparrow owns it, I think. I've played against it. It's really strong. and annoying, to be honest. I think this is a solid A tier win con, to be honest, because it's not that hard to build around. You just need to run Prometheus is one of your synergy slots, basically, or asset slots, um, and you'll get a card that's really hard to take out, really strong, and has 2 lives, of course, so that's really nice. And so, yeah, in my opinion, it's really good. It's an S, not an S tier, an A tier. I when I played against it, I devalued it mostly because I was salty for losing to it. But yeah, it's an A tier strategy in my opinion. We only have Lucuzialt left. I checked to make sure that all of the generic synergy or asset, the generic elders had been taken, and yes, they have. So I will be able to add all of them here, which is nice. 1 second, let me fetch Lucuzialt, and then I'll make some changes overall, and then we will be done finally. Okay, here we have Lucuzialt, another one of the weirdest cards in the game, but it is strong or interesting. I wouldn't say it's super strong. It's an interesting card. Um, when this card is played, if you have 4 or more asset monsters in your asset pile, all players must send the top 3 cards of their deck to the pairs pile. For each discarded tactical card from your deck, all players lose 1 health point. Oh, it has to be red diamond. Okay, red diamond tactical card from your deck. All players must lose 1 health point. When this card's power rises due to a tactical effect, you may send 1 enemy monster from play to the bottom of their deck. Okay, so Kuzialt is interesting. Mostly used with Eclipse Troopers. It likes to burn the opponent. It's very nice if you run Eclipse Troopers because you almost have a guaranteed 3 health points getting rid of. And then you can go of course, for an OTK or for very high pressure, of course, or at least, which is really nice with Lucuzialt. Of course, it's a mutual burn, so you do run the risk of burning yourself here, but it's not that bad. It mills 2 blue tacticals, which is specific, but not that bad, especially because since you're getting rid of blue tacticals, you're going to have only red tacticals left usually. Anyways, so that's nice for it. Um, he's future-proofed. You can't use him during any other time of the game because, like, otherwise that would be kind of broken. If you could use him after using some synergy. So yeah. And he also has a removal effect, which is very nice, and usually forces the opponent to play around Lucuzialt, because Lucuzialt can work with things such as Destroyer Swords, which is really annoying for the opponent at times, especially because it's an Elder, so of course you can power it up, unlike synergies. So I'd say Lucuzialt is A tier worthy. It gets played. It's a card that forces you to play against it. It's just an interesting card in general. So yeah, this was the tier list. Now I'm going to make some changes. I think, I think that Deltro does not deserve B tier. It deserves a C tier if I can find it in this huge list of layers. Yeah, I'm gonna move Deltro down a bit. I think I'll also move Vixen up to an A tier. It does not deserve to be a B tier in my opinion. This Vixen, not the synergy one. Don't worry. Um, but I think that's probably fair where it is. Asakip, I could see being between B and C. You know what? I'll give him a B just because. Why not? Why not put him in B? He's underrated. Sure. Versatile and Clytus need to be closer together, and so does Deltro. So I will do that real quick, and then we will be done. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to check out Montac socials, which I assume you have if you're watching this video, but go ahead, why not? So yeah, here's the completed tier list. I think it's pretty accurate for the most part. Maybe not entirely. Who knows? Synergy impact could go down a tier, maybe. Who knows? I don't really like running most of these cards in general, except for some of the top tier ones. But this is kind of just what I thought was most accurate. Tell me what you think of this tier list, if it's accurate, if it's not accurate, what you would change. So yeah, thank you for watching. You can subscribe if you want. I do other content. I don't just do Montac. I do Kingdom Duelers, which is my own card game. I have a server for it, and I'm planning on launching it soon. But yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye.